In the time of the Crusades, a new brotherhood was born. They were monks, but also warriors. They swore vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience, yet they carried swords and shields. They were called the Knights Templar. In the early 12th century, European Christians started heading east. They wanted to visit the Holy Land, home of Jesus' birth, death, and resurrection. But the trip was dangerous. Rival kingdoms and hostile populations made the road a bloody one. So in 1118, the Order of the Knights Templar was formed to protect pilgrims on their way to the Holy Land. Templars were trained in combat, but also in charity and piety. While commonly known as ferocious fighters, 2/3 of Templars were actually administrative employees. The order grew quickly, attracting both commoners and nobles, but this rapid expansion caused problems. Not every member was a holy man. Some were rapacious, violent, and cruel. In 1146, Pope Eugene III attempted to reform the order, limiting who could join and creating a more professional fighting force. Only men of noble birth could now become Templars. Regular guys need not apply. This created a warrior class dedicated to the church and bound by solemn vows. These warriors were fanatically devoted to the ideals of the order and became some of the most ferocious fighters. In the Holy Land, Templars wore distinctive white mantles over their armor, giving them the nickname the White Sword. When fully armored, they stood out like ghosts riding into battle. But the Templars did more than fight. Backed by the authority of the Church, they built castles across the region, building one of the largest and most sophisticated fortress networks in the Middle East. But the Templars' true power didn't come from armies or fortresses. It came from the purse strings. As the order grew, so did its responsibilities. Many European nobles entrusted their valuables to Templars' buildings. As they set out for the Holy Land, Voivod Simuit of Masovia, for example, left his prized horse with a Templar building when he went on crusade in 1147. Voivod probably didn't expect to see that horse again. But since Templars were supposed to care for abandoned property until its owner's return, he knew his mount would be safe. Soon, ordinary people were doing the same. By 1150, a pilgrim concerned about traveling with money or valuables could turn his possessions over to a Templar building in France, get a receipt, and then redeem that receipt to a Templar building in Jerusalem. Voivod probably didn't know that he was helping create an early form of banking. Over time, kings and queens also used the Templars as bankers, and by the end of the 12th century, the order had become one of the wealthiest in Europe, controlling between 10 and 15% of the continent's gold. But with great wealth comes great envy, and by the early 14th century, the Templars were in trouble. The Crusader states had fallen, and most of the fighting had moved back to Europe. The Templars had also become less holy. Members of the order had been accused of raping travelers and common folk along the road. Popes and kings alike pressured the order to change. In 1307, a lot of those pressures came together. In 1305, Pope Clement V had transferred the assets of the order from the failing Crusader states to French Templar buildings. At the time, France's King Philip IV was deeply in debt to the order, and 3 years later, he struck. On Friday, October 13, 1307, the king arrested nearly all of the Templars in France. The next day, he accused them of heresy, blasphemy, and secret rituals, none of which they had committed. The Templars were tortured. Many of them confessed to these fake charges. Their Grand Master, Jacques de Molay, was burned at the stake on March 18, 1314. The Pope disbanded the order the following year. Overnight, the Knights Templar were gone, but their legend had just begun. Fiction has long tied the Templars to the Holy Grail and other supernatural objects. Conspiracies claim they survived the Purge and became secret societies. Perhaps their treasure still lies buried beneath old cathedrals or hidden in the vaults of European banks. But the real story of the Templars is darker than fiction and just as gripping. The so-called Knights of the White Sword fell, not because of curses or grails, but because of greed and fear. A fearsome warrior order became the target of envy and propaganda, toppled not by supernatural forces, but by very human ones. The lessons of their fall still resonate today. Power and wealth can corrupt even the most devoted of orders. Sometimes the greatest monsters are the ones we create ourselves. For more on historical hoaxes, stay tuned. And remember, some things are better left buried.